Hey, get inspired, everybody. It is time for another episode of Life Inspired. My name's Diane Bennett. Our guest today is Luciano Villegas. I hope I said it correctly. And if you've never watched Life Inspired before, we're going to talk about turning points. This is all about why and how people are following Jesus. Usually life was going along and there's a ... and then God, kind of a moment in your life when he says, hey, I want you to do this over here instead of what you've been doing. And he turns you into a new trajectory. And now you're walking an inspired life. So Luciano Villegas,
Hi,
did I say
Diane.
it right?
Yes, you did. Yes, you
Good
did.
deal. So tell us your story. You have a little backstory before a turning point in your life?
Yes, actually, there are multiple turning points in my life. It all started in 2016, and actually, let me backtrack that. It's actually my upbringing. My dad, he followed Jesus growing up, and that's how I was first introduced to the Bible.
Okay.
That's how I learned how to read and write in Spanish too, which is kind of interesting. Like all my brothers and sisters, I guess he really emphasized following Jesus as I was a kid.
Cool.
And it was something that I looked up to and actually admired about him.
Okay.
It was very fascinating. I mean, every Sunday we'd get up real early, which as a child you didn't really enjoy doing. But he took us to church, and about my senior year in high school. There was a turning point in his life where he actually stepped back away from the church.
Wow.
And so, we kind of stepped back too. And it like looking back on it, it was like a sad moment in like our family dynamic. It was really interesting to see that, my dad kind of just like regressed, and he just stopped reading the Bible. He stopped, praying, and it kind of like, it bothered me a little bit, but I never said anything. I was always the quiet one growing
So
up.
you were like about how old at this time?
17, 18 years old.
Okay.
So, graduated high school, did a short stint in college, and then I moved out of my parents' house in 2014.
Okay.
So throughout this time, I'm trying to find my identity. I picked up running in 2009 right after high school.
Okay.
So it's one of my biggest passions. When somebody looks at me, they're like, it's Luciano the runner.
Cool.
So
Okay.
that's what I'm known for. And so fast forward to 2014, I move out of their house, and I get this I've always known who Jesus is, but I've never really, pursued him. I'm like, okay, I know there's Jesus, there's God, created, the earth, from my upbringing with, growing up with my parents in a Christian household. And so then 2014, I'm living on my own, and I'm wanting to connect with people. And it's something that's always been hard for me, getting out there, talking to people, meeting new people. I was very closed off as a teenager and child.
Okay.
And so I started looking for other people to run with, and I'm like,
cool.
I'll give this a shot and get to know people. And so I found this group of runners that, seemed really cool, and I'm like, I started running with other people.
Great.
And I started seeing some, improvements in my running and my social aspects of life. I started being more open with people. So that was really cool. And then one day, me and two friends of mine, Chad Ganger and Ed McCollum, were running along Riverside in South Bend, and they turned to me and they're like, hey, Luciano, you believe in Jesus? I was like, yeah, I do. He's like, you want to come to church with us? And I was like, sure. It's the call that I've always been waiting for. And I've been reluctant to get up until that point. I never really went out and looked for a church. I was like, I don't have time for it. I always made up excuses. So it's the invitation, it's amazing. So I started going to church with them in 2016, and I enjoyed it. Every Sunday was awesome. Nothing more than just attending church every Sunday.
Okay.
And then one Sunday, Easter Sunday, the lead pastor, his sermon was phenomenal, and they had an altar call at the end. And he's like, if you've known Jesus before, but then you kind of shied away, or if this is your first time, he's like, there's an opportunity to receive prayer, to come to Christ. And so, I'm sitting there between, next to Chad, Ed, and his wife, Shelly, Chad's wife, Shelly. And I'm like, I should be up there, I should go up there. But again, the shy, reserved Luciano's like, no,
I'm not going to do it.
I'm not going to do it, because it's like, all these people are going to think something of me, It was me holding myself back. And I felt, trembling within my being. I'm like, I really should be up there, but I don't want to go up there. How am I going to do this? And the Holy Spirit, he used the lead pastor to use this wording that really broke through me. He's like, I have a feeling that there's some of you out there that need to be up here, but you're letting pride get in the way. He's like, and it's a shame to let pride be the reason you go to hell. He's like,
oh my
yeah.
gosh, wow.
He's like, don't care what your friends think next to you. He's like, it'd be a foolish reason to go to hell. At that point, everything broke down around me. Like, I just started crying, and I pushed them aside, gently, and I'm like, guys, I need to go up there, and I'm just, just an emotional wreck. It's just, I go up there and receive prayer. People lay their hands on me, and it's just everything just washed away. Wow. It was amazing. And so that was in 2016, and I'd been going to church regularly, I felt a newness in me. It was amazing. But then again, I regressed a little bit. I kind of did, my dad, I regressed a little bit and wasn't really walking with Jesus for a while. This was in 2017, like a year and a half later.
Okay.
I'd helped serve at the church. I was on the usher team and stuff, did a couple small groups, was in young adults, and I had some growth as a Christian. I was like, this is amazing. And then I let life get in the way, and I'm like, okay, I can do this on my own. And
I've arrived.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not necessarily in that sense, but it's
yeah.
okay, this is great.
I got
it. I understand. Cool. That's not how this works. And I was humbled a couple times along the way. It's like, Luciano, I always put myself first. I always put other people first, and it was not the right way, and it never worked out. People always end up getting hurt. Mm-hmm. I would end up getting hurt, in relationships and finances and work, when you got to put God first, and that's really where, when you do that, everything else takes care of itself. And so fast forward to this fall, I'm like, okay, you really need a turning point where you need to get your head on straight and really start, it's time to man up. So this fall, I actually ran into somebody, my girlfriend Janae, who really also,
here watching.
Yeah, she also inspired me too. You really have to fully immerse yourself, and you can't do this alone. And so at the same time, everything's going great. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. My dad has a stroke, and at that point, if I had not been in the spiritual place that I was at, I think it really would have broken me. Because my family, they come from like a background where like ailments are like normal. Both my parents are diabetic, so there's a high risk for me. And it's something that I've become used to.
Okay.
But at the same time, it's like, I see that and I'm like, God, please help here. Please help here. That's like, you humble yourself. But when my dad had his stroke, I felt calm, like not necessarily like I was terrified, but at the same time, I'm like, he's gonna be okay. I really believe he will be okay. My whole family, I watched as like my brother, he was scared. He was crying. I was at the hospital the first night with my dad. My brother walks in, he sees me, and we make eye contact, and he sees my dad laying in the hospital bed. And he just breaks down, and I'm like, thinking to myself, like, it wasn't an emotional disconnect. It was more of like I know everything's going to be okay. And I'm like thinking to myself, how do I know everything's going to be okay? And it's like, when you have that sense of peace and calm, like you understand everything's in God's hands.
Yeah.
So, I had a little bit of fear, but at the same time, I believe that faith doesn't remove fear. It helps you fight it.
Yes.
So, that was important. And those 1 hour drives every other day up to St. Joe from South Bend to see my dad, I was praising God the entire time. Like, my dad's going to be okay. This is going to work itself out, and I just kept praying. I asked people to pray, and it's like, please, lift up my dad in prayer. And I can sit here today and say that he's doing much better than what he was. And, and the things he went through, leading up to that point, they were not easy. Like any normal human being would have, I feel like it wouldn't have turned out as well. We wouldn't be sitting here saying that he's still alive.
Wow.
The doctors found that he had a heart attack within the last 5 years that went undiagnosed.
Wow.
So I'm like, it's a miracle
right.
that my dad is alive today.
Right.
I mean, there's no the only explanation is, God had his hand on him.
Right.
So throughout that time, one night specifically, my girlfriend and I are sitting down talking, and she's been really instrumental in this whole entire process of me starting to walk in a straight line again, because she would ask me the questions that really made me dig deep and like say, why do you want to do this, or do you see yourself set up for this? And I'm like, a year or two ago, probably not. I would have sat back and just kept my mouth shut, about this. But she's really motivated me and pushed me in a sense, and in a gentle way to say, you should really say something, speak up, And I remember the Monday morning when I was going through my emails at work, Dan reached out to me. He said, "Hey, Luciano, I sensed, I saw that, you were going through a hard time with your dad in the hospital, but like, you really leaned on God to help you and your family through. Like, do you mind telling people about your story?" I was like, "Of course." I was so excited. I'm like, "Yes." In the past, I would have like, no, not me,
don't put me on that red couch.
Yeah. But I immediately texted Janae, and I'm like, "Hey, I got this opportunity to share my story." Leading up to that point, I hadn't been rehearsing yet. We've been getting to know each other. She's heard my story. She's like, "It'd be kind of interesting if somebody had been praying for you to, get this opportunity." And I'm like, seriously? Like,
no,
I was like, jaw drop.
kidding.
Yeah. I'm like,
she's been praying for you.
She'd been praying for me. So it's like, even that much more motivation to get out there and,
yeah,
talk about Jesus. It's been a phenomenal couple months.
So impressed. And I want to tell you now, you have a very big future. I do not know what God has in store for you, but he does not give a woman like that to a man like you unless he has big plans for you.
Right. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree.
I'm so impressed.
So blessed, yeah. And he's been very instrumental in putting people in my life when I didn't deserve it, and when I most needed them. Some of my closest friends.
But that's kind of why, don't you think? It's because you don't deserve it.
Yeah.
Because if you deserved it, it would be all about us. And
exactly.
It's just all about him, and that's so exciting.
It is. I mean, every day I wake up and I'm so blessed. It's like I have people that text me on the regular, say, "Hey, I just thought about, I'm doing my devotions right now. Here's a little text," and I'm just like, I didn't need that. Yes and no. I just said, yes, you needed that. It's like I just take a step back and I just look at it and I'm like, it wasn't a coincidence.
Right. So we've got viewers that tune into these shows, and they have questions. They, some of them already have great walks with God and they connect, and some of them are like just starting out and I don't know how to connect. How do you have what Luciano has? I don't know how to get that.
Yeah.
So what would you say? Like, how do you stay inspired on a daily basis? What do you do for that? And what would you say to somebody that wants to find your same inspiration? How would you tell them what to do?
I would say you take the first step. You don't have to start off running. Start off walking, and you just take it all in stride. And also at the same time, go deep with it. Don't just sit on the surface and say, okay, this is good enough. Sunday church, yeah. Small groups. I'm starting to get back into small groups to do a small, because there's a lot of power and strength in just 2 or 3 or 4 people getting together,
right,
and reading the Bible. That's another point for me is, as cliche as it sounds, there's a lot of truth in the Bible. I mean, for every storm that comes in, I've had so many storms in my life that I've had to navigate through, and it's all in there. I mean, that's the Word of God. It'll help you through anything, and there's so much truth in that.
So like you read your Bible every day?
Yeah. I mean, I try to. Some days I don't get to it, and so I'm working on that, but it's like I try to grow on it every day,
Cool.
A little bit here, a little bit there, and I read and highlight. One of my biggest passions is to write in books. So a big difference between my girlfriend and I. She doesn't, she's a teacher, doesn't like to, mark up books. Yeah, my book, I take, pride in that. I'm like, I want her to highlight this because this is really sticking out to me, and even when we're sitting in church on Sundays, I'll highlight something and it'll stick to me. And I'm like, Luciano, there's a reason why this is sticking. You might need this later. So, I'm just diving deep into the Bible, small groups, and then prayer.
That's awesome. Very cool.
What I do. Yeah.
Very cool. So sometimes we'll tell people if you want to meet with Luciano, he would have coffee with you. Is that?
Of course. Yeah. I love coffee.
Okay, great. So so if you guys are watching and you'd like to meet one-on-one with Luciano, just message us here. You can be watching Life Inspired from either our YouTube channel or our Facebook page or inspiredhomes.com. So any one of those places you can message us, and we'll put you in contact with Luciano so he can have coffee with you. And this is a way that you can share this story. So if Luciano's story is not yours, but it sounds very much like someone that you love, share it. You can share the YouTube link or share it on Facebook, or again, share it from from inspiredhomes.com. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
Any last things that you want to say to anybody?
You're never too far gone. If you feel like you've tried and it's nothing's working, just remain faithful and ask for help. People are here. We're here to help each other. We're not here to judge. We're here to love each other. So just know that you are loved.
That's awesome. So that when you were in that church service that you broke down or whatever, and you were afraid for people to know, they all just probably loved up on you and hugged up on you, and it was fine, right?
I made some connections that day that I would not have made regardless of any other way.
Yep, for sure. Well, so tune in on Monday nights at 7:30. We do this show every single Monday night. It's on Facebook, YouTube, and inspiredhomes.com. Monday nights, 7:30. Tune in. Thank you guys so much for watching. Oh, and you know what? If you would subscribe, that would help. Subscribe to the channel and like our Facebook page. Thanks, you guys. Have a great week, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.